Our underdog story starts with this normal suburban town where some kid waves goodbye to their departing family. The family in the station wagon heads for the highway, and the mother says that they're headed for the worst place in the world, California. They have a long journey ahead of them that includes a few stops here and there. The mother wakes her son, Daniel LaRusso, and says they're already at their destination. Lucille LaRusso, his mother, is excited, while Daniel himself doesn't look too pleased.
Do you like frozen toes?
Daniel seems bummed out, but he carries his bike, kicks the gate open, and there it is, his first karate kick victim, Freddy Fernandez. The bloke who just got kicked down seems to be all cool about it.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No.
Greets Daniel with a warm welcome and even offers to carry his bike. Freddy's curious what a New Jersey person like Daniel's doing here, and he says that his mom left town to pursue a career here in a computer company. Daniel sees the pool, looking like a sewer rat's infected heaven. Then he tells Freddy that he's actually been doing karate for some time. The two boys come across some old hag who claims to be from New Jersey as well. Freddy dismisses her, but Daniel is nice enough in his approach. Freddy invites Daniel to a beach party, and he happily accepts that invitation.
You thirsty, huh?
Lucille has a great feeling about this place, but things are already falling apart as Daniel gets some water for the dog downstairs. He tells her about the party, and she's A-okay with it. So Daniel goes downstairs, gives the pooch some water, and what's more confusing is that he finds the fix-it guy trying to nab a fly with chopsticks. He's not much of a talker, and he says he'll come to fix their faucet vaguely later.
After.
The next day, it's a good day for a party, and Daniel finds himself amongst friends. They're playing football at the beach, and then he eyeballs a girl. Daniel shows the lucky gal a few ball tricks, then goes back to playing. He gets curious about the blonde in blue, and his friends say that she's one of the rich blondes.
Who's that blonde in blue?
The entire day, Danny Boy and the blonde keep making googly eyes to each other across the beach, even to the point that Freddy notices it. Freddy and Co. tell him to make a move, but Daniel's too busy with his fried wiener. The blonde's asking Freddy how to juggle the ball, and he happily teaches her.
Take a right, check it out.
Suddenly, some ragamuffins enter the scene with their Sanchez dirt bikes. They're all out here making good decisions until one of them tells Johnny Lawrence to look at his ex on the beach getting comfy with another guy. Johnny, like every tool's name, takes Allie Mills's radio and forces her to talk to him. Johnny then breaks the radio, and Daniel interferes, earning himself a shove to the sand. The crowd stands back as Johnny and Daniel tussle. Daniel's no match for Johnny in his martial arts,
It's your fault.
but he manages to launch a cheap shot at Johnny's mug. Johnny puts the hurt on him with 3 swift moves, and Daniel eats the sand once again. Allie stops the fight and fends Johnny off, so the idiot calls his Cobra Kai and they all leave on their bikes. His friends leave him in the sand too, along with Allie and the girls. Jeez, tough crowd. Well, he did want to be left alone.
No, just leave me alone. I'm okay.
The following morning, Lucille's making some breakfast and is asking Daniel how the party was. Daniel walks in with sunglasses and says it was aight. His mom becomes sus, so she's asking him to take those glasses off and hey yo, that's a ginormous black eye. He lies and says he hit his face when he was riding his bike.
How did that happen?
And she buys it. He's off to school on his bike, and he finds that Johnny and his Cobra Kai are attending the same school. Later at PE, he gets teased by Freddy's friends on his last fight, and then he meets Allie. She apologizes about the eye and the whole fight, but thanks him for standing up for her. She's also been practicing how to juggle, and then she gets called. This is also the first time they get to know each other's names. Looks like Johnny and his goons are onto him and spot him from a distance.
You got a name?
Their game begins, and one of the Cobra Kai grunts trip him on purpose. This leads him to fist the other guy in the face, and a fight breaks out. The coach kicks him off the team, while the grunts laugh at him. Allie sees him walk away in defeat. Later that day, Daniel's practicing his karate kicks. Then Mr. Miyagi, the fix-it guy, comes in to do his job. Mr. Miyagi seems to be interested in his karate practice. Let's go on to another miserable day in school, and it's lunchtime. Allie comes to him with lunch and tries to welcome him to the valley, despite the recent happenings. Sometime later, Johnny goes to the local karate dojo, and he comes at a dangerously right time. The top sensei, John Kreese, is loudly motivating his pupils. Well, that's due to his military background. Then Daniel sees Johnny warming the boys up.
I can't hear you.
This makes him leave. Then he spends time with his mom in the restaurant next to the dojo. Then they leave before he can notice. Lucille talks to her son about this girl Daniel has the hots for, but she gets called to work, so she says goodbye for now. Sometime later, Daniel's biking home. The Cobra Kai troglodytes come in and knock him off the hill.
Hey, what are you doing?
Lucille comes home and she makes great time because she's witnessing Daniel throw his bike in the dumpster. Mom comes to tend to her boy and she sees the mess on his face. Okay, now she wants the truth. Another day comes, and Allie's chilling with Susan here. She gets curious about his forehead, but he talks it off as a bike accident. Allie then invites him to the arcade with her and Susan, but then Cobra Kai are nearby, so he chickens out on the deal. Night falls,
I forgot something, so I'll catch up with you guys in a minute.
and Daniel comes home to his bike as if it was brand new. He goes to Mr. Miyagi and thanks him for fixing the bike. Then he gets curious about Mr. Miyagi and his fondness for the art of bonsai. Lucille comes in and thanks Miyagi for fixing the bike. Another school day, and it seems like Daniel's skipping out on meeting Allie because of Johnny. So he makes a beeline for Miyagi's instead. Mr. Miyagi gets worried about Daniel and him skipping the Halloween dance. So enough of that, and Daniel goes to the dance in a shower costume instead. Allie recognizes him and meets him inside the shower. Amazingly, he gets a nice dance with her, and then he gets egged in the head.
Hey, there's Daniel.
Daniel washes it off in the bathroom, but Johnny's there too. Once everyone's gone, Daniel attempts something stupid, and it results with Johnny getting all wet. Cue the Tom and Jerry goose chase. Daniel's chased all the way back to near his place, and he's beaten like schnitzels after November. Mr. Miyagi then comes in and swiftly takes them all down. He assists Daniel in getting up, then he takes him to his place. He tends to his wounds, and Daniel can't believe that he was just saved by the amazing Mr. Miyagi. Turns out, not only did Miyagi's father teach him bonsai, but also karate. Mr. Miyagi never taught anyone karate, but Daniel needs it for vengeance. Miyagi doesn't condone this, as he thinks karate is only for self-defense. Daniel then asks him to come and escort him to Cobra Kai's karate school, but Miyagi says that he doesn't want to get involved.
Would you go with me?
The next morning, Daniel and Miyagi meet, and they drive off. They arrive at the dojo that John Kreese teaches at, and Miyagi witnesses the brutal militaristic training John is putting these kids through. Johnny sees Miyagi and Daniel, and John takes a notice of this.
What is the problem, Mr. Lawrence?
He confronts Daniel and Mr. Miyagi, saying Miyagi jumped his students. That's not the case though, as he was only protecting Daniel from a 5-to-1 massacre. John wants a fight to defend their stature, but Mr. Miyagi refuses. Insistent, John's asking him to name a place, so Mr. Miyagi challenges him to the upcoming karate tournament.
Tournament.
This has John's interest, and then Miyagi has one more request, to have the boy be left alone up until the tournament. John likes Miyagi's sheer nerve to say that, so he accepts. But if they chicken out, then it's open season on both their sorry hides. Mr. Miyagi and Daniel leave, and the boy's appalled, because now he has to worry about the tournament. But Miyagi saved him from at least 2 months of beatings. They arrive to this remote place near an oil facility, where Mr. Miyagi says they're going to do their training. Now, for the first brutal training session. Wash all these cars, and then wax them. The infamous wax on, wax off. Daniel gets washing and waxing, and with a little adjustment from Mr. Miyagi, the cars are all eventually squeaky clean.
Wax on, wax off.
He's done, but Mr. Miyagi's meditating, so it's back to school for Daniel. Allie meets up with him, and she's in shock that he took more damage. But Daniel's insisting that he's fine. He's even bragging to her how he's basically untouchable now. Allie wants to know how he did that, but he just tells her that they have an agreement. An agreement that he'll tell her if she agrees to go on a date with him this Saturday. Surprise, surprise, she says yes. Daniel gets her address. Then he tries using a history teacher to make the Cobra Kai dogs scatter, but it also earns him a long lecture. Saturday night arrives, and Daniel's brought to Allie's house by Lucille. Then he notices a car pulling up to her house. He rings for Allie, and out she comes. She said the people in the car were her parents, so they all get acquainted, and introductions are passed all around. Even Daniel's mom says hi. After all that awkward meeting, Allie's father lets her go, but not too late. The two are taken to a golf and stuff, where Lucille says she'll pick them up around 11. The two head in, and a night of debauchery begins. They really have fun and hit it off.
Man, this is the best time I've had since I've been here.
So we cue the cheesy 80s first date music while they take some photos. The night ends on a high note, but not before Johnny and co come to rag on Daniel and his mom's car. I guess this makes the mood sour then, huh? Another day starts, and Daniel gets to Mr. Miyagi's new spot. Daniel really dodgers his new place, and guess what comes with it? These two Japanese Sanders. You know what that means? That's right, it's time for Daniel to sand all the wooden floors. This takes him the entire day, and Mr. Miyagi compliments his work. He's beat, so Miyagi sends him off and tells him to come by at 6 in the morning. Our boy's confused by his recent training regimen, but he does show up at 6 in the morning that following day. Once again, Miyagi's here catching flies with chopsticks, and he says anyone who can catch one can do anything. So Daniel gives it a go, and well, he caught it. I guess now he can do anything, and that includes painting this fence. It's time for another chore for Daniel. This time, it's wrist up and wrist down. Hours pass. Mr. Miyagi comes with paint, but he does commend Daniel on his work, just with a little adjustment, and he tells him he has to do all the fences, including both sides. The day zips by like it was nothing, and just like before, Mr. Miyagi tells him to come early in the morning. Time for another day of monotonous chores. This time, Mr. Miyagi leaves him a note to paint the entire house. Go side to side this time, Danny boy. Night arrives early again, and Daniel finally complains about this slave work he's been recently doing. For 4 days, he feels like he's learned squat.
Daniel-san.
But Mr. Miyagi says there's more to it than meets the eye. He asks the boy to show him how he sands the floor, but his arm hurts. So Mr. Miyagi does some little trick and voila, Daniel's arm's alright. And now Mr. Miyagi wants to see that sanding. Daniel shows him, but Miyagi corrects him. He wants the rest of the chore techniques to be demonstrated. So Daniel does just that, and Miyagi corrects him every step of the way. After that, Miyagi attacks him with no warning. And it looks like his chores actually paid off and pulled through. Daniel's mystified by this, but as always, come back tomorrow for more. Tomorrow comes, and we see Daniel-san on the beach with Mr. Miyagi. This time we teach Daniel balance by kicking through the large waves. Daniel swings to and fro in the water, but he sees Mr. Miyagi demonstrating balance on top of the stumps. Miyagi says it's the crane technique, so Daniel's eager to learn it. But like revengeance, rules of nature. Some drunken losers are drinking on Mr. Miyagi's truck, so he's kindly asking them to remove those bottles, but they're morons. In response, Mr. Miyagi breaks those bottles with the bare tip of his palm. They got scared, and apparently it was his first time using that trick.
First time.
A school day comes, and Daniel's playing football with his girl, Allie. Seems like they're having fun. Then Danny boy asks her out. Later on, Daniel trains some more with Mr. Miyagi in the middle of a lake. Daniel's tasked to do all his recently learned moves while balancing on the tip of the boat while Mr. Miyagi fishes. It seems they're really having a father-son moment here though, up until Daniel annoys Miyagi with the eagerness to learn how to punch. Instead, Miyagi rocks the boat and throws him overboard, and they have a good laugh. The day of the date comes, and Allie's still at dinner with her parents. Her parents are really forcing Johnny down her throat, but she doesn't want that. Well, too bad, because she's forced to finish the dance.
Can we please finish the dance?
Daniel's outside and gets tired of waiting, so he sneaks through the back and sees the treachery. Johnny sees this and makes it look good, to the point it makes Daniel leave, but he instead bumps into disaster, and the entire crowd ends up laughing at him. Man, rich people have their heads in their rectums. Allie is disgusted, slaps Johnny hard, and leaves. At Mr. Miyagi's place, he makes a toast and sings to his deceased wife. Daniel comes in and shares a drink with the drunken Mr. Miyagi. He honors his wife's memory by showing and telling Daniel about her. He even shows him that she was pregnant and reveals that she passed because of birth complications. Daniel puts him to rest, and then he reads about Mr. Miyagi's dark and saddening past. The following morning, Daniel goes to the beach and attempts to replicate Mr. Miyagi's crane technique. He even practices his balance on the boat. Soon, Miyagi teaches him all about punches, and he gives off a bit, but Mr. Miyagi tells him to put his entire body and concentration into it. Up next, it's Daniel's birthday, and Mr. Miyagi even brought a cake. The first present, a new karate uniform that Mrs. Miyagi made. Daniel deeply appreciates his kind gesture, but he remembers that he has to meet his mom, so he's got to bounce. Outside, Mr. Miyagi tells him to choose a car. It's like the father he never had. Miyagi is happy to give away this car, but he's a little scared because the tournament is right around the corner. Miyagi says life is about balance, and then he zooms off. Daniel heads over to golf and stuff and tries to surprise Allie, but weirdly, she's the one angry at him. Soon, Daniel finds out from Susan that Allie did, in fact, punch Johnny, and that puts him in a weird situation. He meets her outside and they both bury the hatchet. Looks like she's mad because she found out about the tournament tomorrow, but Daniel still has her support.
Right hook.
They lip lock and drive away into the night. The day of the tournament is here, and Daniel registers, but he needs a black belt, so Mr. Miyagi steals one for him. In the locker room, Cobra Kai got the wrong door because the idiot block is just 2 blocks down. The referee sees this whole charade and tells them to flock away. Daniel, Mr. Miyagi, and Ali make their way to the ring, where Mr. Miyagi reveals that he doesn't even know how this point system works, so Danny Boy's all on his own. Danny has trouble getting in the ring at first, but he makes good defense and begins climbing the ranks. Cue the tournament montage with that iconic song. Soon Daniel finds himself against Cobra Kai, and he picks him off one by one. Johnny does the same, climbing the ranks without mercy. Daniel picks off more Cobra Kai mongrels. Then comes the twit from the locker room. At first, Daniel takes his foot, but then he strikes back hard at the next round, making him win. The final rounds of the tournament are coming, and Johnny makes his mark by beating this sorry kid stiff. Daniel's up, and his opponent from Cobra Kai gets advice from John. Out of commission. Well, he does just that by kneecapping him. He's taken to the locker room and he's frustrated that he's knocked out of the match. Daniel's begging Mr. Miyagi to fix his leg like he did with his arm. Miyagi reluctantly agrees, and it's boss battle time, suckers.
Close your eye.
Daniel LaRusso versus Johnny Lawrence. They face off, and Johnny starts strong, but Daniel gets him. Next round, Johnny does the same strategy and he's beaten again. John comes to him and tells him to sweep the leg, which is underhanded. He does so, and he gets 2 points from 2 rounds. Final round, and it's neck to neck. Looks like the two combatants are evenly matched, and after many underhanded tactics, Daniel busts out the crane technique, and it's a swift win. And even Johnny pays his respects. Let's all bow now, because that's it for Karate Kid. What'd you guys think about this 80s fist and foot action movie? Let us know in those comments below using that hashtag #CinemaRecap. This was The Karate Kid by Delphi 2 Productions, starring Ralph Macchio, William Zabka, and Pat Morita. Until Cobra Kai returns, see you later.